When it was morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that Jesus had been condemned, deeply regretted what he had done. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, "I have sinned in betraying innocent blood." They said, "What is that to us? Look to it yourself." Flinging the money into the temple, he departed and went off and hanged himself. The chief priests gathered up the money, but said, "It is not lawful to deposit this in the temple treasury, for it is the price of blood." After consultation, they used it to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why that field, even today, is called the Field of Blood. Then was fulfilled what had been said through Jeremiah the prophet. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of a man with a price on his head, a price set by some of the Israelites, and they paid it out for the potter's field, just as the Lord had commanded me.
It started out with borrowing a few coins now and then from the common purse. Nothing big. And besides, I deserved a little something for my work as treasurer. Before long, I was helping myself to a bigger share. I needed the money, and no one seemed to miss it. And then came my big opportunity. A one-time payoff to assist in a secret arrest. They'll eventually get Jesus anyway, with or without my help. So I might as well be the one to cash in on it. But now it's finally hitting me. What started with pinching a few coins here and there has led me to being an accessory to murder. And the victim is a man who treated me with nothing but perfect kindness and friendship for 3 years. A person who called me friend, even as I betrayed him. The money I thought I loved disgusts me now. I tried to give it back, but the men who paid me for it couldn't have cared less. I wish I could undo what I've done, but it's too late. What I've done sickens me. I threw the money down, and now I'm going to do the only thing that I can think of. Exactly what I deserve.
They pressed into service a passerby, Simon, a Cyrenian who was coming in from the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to carry his cross. They brought him to the place of Golgotha, which is translated the place of the skull.
My pilgrimage was almost over. I traveled all the way from Cyrene in Libya for the Passover celebration in Jerusalem. I was coming up the road on my way to the city when I met a huge crowd of people all staring at something or someone. 3 men carrying stout wooden beams were nudged along at sword point, headed for crucifixion. One looked like he could have been dead already. His back was bloody, his face beaten to a pulp. His eyes were swollen, nearly shut. Some sadist even jammed a wreath of thorns onto his head. It was awful. But what could I do for him? I began to move on. A rough hand grabbed my shoulder. I turned to see the bloody prisoner pinned under the heavy beam. He couldn't carry it another step. The soldiers were telling me to help him. Of all the people here, why me? I had just made that long trip from Cyrene, and now I was supposed to lug this heavy cross for an exhausted criminal. As it turns out, my life would never be the same. The troublesome task forced on me became the greatest privilege any man could ever have. Because the bloody stranger whose cross I carried was the Son of God, my living Lord. My sons, Alexander and Rufus, were with me that day. They too became followers of Jesus. We know now, better than most, that anyone who does not carry his cross and follow Jesus cannot be his disciple.
Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews." Now many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. So the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but that he said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 shares, a share for each soldier. They also took his tunic, but the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from the top down. So they said to one another, "Let's not tear it, but cast lots for it to see whose it will be." in order that the passage of Scripture might be fulfilled that says, "They divided my garments among them, and for my vesture they cast lots." This is what the soldiers did.
You get used to it after a while. The first crucifixion is always the hardest. The naked flesh, the oozing blood, the buzzing flies, the first shrieks of pain followed by hours of gasping supplication. The first time you see it, turns your stomach. But after a while, you can handle it. And if you're lucky, you might even get a little something for yourself. Most of the time, you don't know the people you're crucifying. You're a soldier, and your job is to do what you were told. But this is different. It's hard to resist having a little fun with a fellow labeled King of the Jews. Before you nail him up, give him a stick or a scepter, a crown made of thorns. Buff him up a bit, and then bow down to the king. Way more entertaining than an average execution. Today, there is something for everybody. All 4 soldiers get a piece of clothing they can sell at a local pawn shop. But what about the seamless tunic? It would be a shame to cut it off. Hey, how about a game to pass the time? Calvary Casino? Winner gets the tunic. See, it's not so hard to do this. After a while, nothing shocks you anymore.